What's up, YouTube? Here with a prediction video for tonight's fight for the WBA Super World Welterweight title. And I have to say super because WBA is one of these organizations in the sport that like to have multiple titles for each weight class. They got the super, then they got the regular, they got the interim. It's stupid, I know, but it is what it is. It's going to be Yordenis Ugas, the WBA Super World Welterweight champion, defending his title against the legend himself, Manny Pacquiao. Going down at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, available to watch on pay-per-view. Now, this fight was originally supposed to be between the two generational stars, the greatest fighter, in my opinion at least, the greatest fighter of the 2010 decade against the man at the welterweight division right now, and that is Errol Spence. And I say that because he holds majority of the titles at that division. He holds 2 of the 5 major titles at welterweight, and that fight between him and Pacquiao was also supposed to be for the lineal Ring Magazine welterweight title. So that goes to show you the importance of that fight. But unfortunately, Errol Spence had to withdraw from that fight because he has suffered a detached retina. And yeah, I don't know if it came from that photo that leaked of him during sparring where he had that cut above his eye. I don't know if that was the cause of the injury to why he had to back out of that fight. But there's these stupid rumors going on about, oh, Errol Spence is scared, that's why he's ducking, and he's backing out of that fight because he doesn't want that smoke with Pacquiao. That don't make any sense to me, and those speculations got to stop because why would Errol Spence, when he's the favorite to win that fight, and even if he decides when he recovers from that injury and he decides to fight Pacquiao, win or lose, for tonight's fight, if Pacquiao wins or loses, and if Spence decides to go on to fight Pacquiao and resume that match, he's still gonna be the favorite regardless. So why would he back out of a fight where he's the favorite to win and he's been calling Pacquiao out? And this is the best available matchup for him outside of the Terrence Crawford fight, financially and legacy wise. He's already legitimate. He's already the man at 147, and Pacquiao, there's no negatives in fighting Pacquiao for Errol Spence, so there's no legit reasons to why he would make up a serious injury to avoid that fight with Pacquiao. And we tend to sleep on the fact that this man had that horrific car accident last year, but he bounced back so greatly and miraculously performed well in his last fight that we tend to sleep and forget about that fact. And his face got all fucked up from that car accident, which means he's more prone to get facial injuries. And what was the cause to the reason why he backed out of this fight? Was a facial injury. Now, let's stop with the ridiculous rumors and wish Errol Spence a speedy recovery. Anyways, let's get into the in-depth analysis and preview tonight's main event for the WBA Super World Welterweight title. And mind you, Pacquiao never lost that title. He was the original WBA Super World Welterweight champion. He defeated Keith Thurman for it via split decision. He turned back the clock by beating Keith Thurman. And yeah, but unfortunately, the WBA had stripped Pacquiao of that title because I guess they got a time limit for their champions to defend the title. And Pacquiao, as y'all know, he's a politician in his home country of the Philippines. He had to do governmental work because the global pandemic hit right after that fight, and he can't just leave his country when he's got politics to work on over there. And y'all know, with that global pandemic, when people leave their country of origin for business, they have quarantines and they have mandated laws for each country. So Pacquiao couldn't just, cross over to America to take care of his boxing career when he had all this stuff to do in the Philippines. And yeah, but now the world's back open, so Pacquiao can resume his boxing career and go for the title, which he never lost. And then Yordenis Ugas, who was the regular world welterweight champion for the WBA, after they made Pacquiao vacate the super title, they bumped Ugas up to be the super welterweight champion, the super world welterweight champion. He defeated Abel Ramos in a close competitive fight via split decision. I thought Ugas won that fight. That's how he won the regular world title. Then at the beginning of this year, they bumped him up to be the super champion. So they're going to be fighting for that title. And Ugas, for those of y'all that don't know too much about him, he's a Cuban fighter, Cuban champion. And as y'all know, Cuba, when it comes to the amateur system, they're the greatest country when it comes to amateur boxing. But when it comes to the pro leagues, the Cuban pro fighters, they're kind of underrated and slept on and definitely avoided as well for good reasons. And Ugas is one of those slept on talents at the welterweight division. Mind you, like I said, he's on a 3-fight win streak. His record is 26-4. And 12 of his wins came via knockout. So he doesn't pack a lot of power in his punches. He's not a knockout artist. This man is in his mid-30s. He's 35 years old. He's pretty big for a welterweight, 5'9", 69-inch reach. Definitely a bigger fighter than Manny Pacquiao, and his most notable fight was against Shawn Porter, and that was also for a major world title. They fought for the WBC welterweight title, and he lost that fight against Porter via split decision. It was a close competitive fight, as y'all see. The results were via split decision, but I thought the right fighter won in Shawn Porter. But ever since that fight, he's been on a 3-fight win streak. And yeah, his keys to victories for this fight for Yordenis Ugas is he wants to use his height and reach advantage against Manny Pacquiao, and he's got a decent jab. His best weapon, I believe, is the 1-2, the jab and the straight right. He's going to want to work off the back foot and utilize his footwork and use lateral movements around the ring, and he's going to want to do that throughout all 12 rounds of the fight. And if you guys go back and watch his fight against Shawn Porter, in the earlier rounds, he was doing a good job at keeping Shawn Porter on the outside. And mind you, Shawn Porter is a much more physical and stronger fighter than Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao, we tend to forget, if y'all don't know, he started off as a flyweight, so he is a very small welterweight. And Shawn Porter, who likes to, rough his way in on the inside to get his assaults going, he struggled against Ugas and was frustrated against Ugas, especially in the earlier rounds. But Ugas tended to lose focus, which he cannot do against Pacquiao in this fight. This is by far the biggest fight of his career. Pacquiao is still the cash cow when it comes to the 147-pound weight class. He's still the most recognizable name in the sport. Like I said, in my opinion, the greatest fighter of the 2010s. So he cannot play in this fight. Ugas can't. You can't take any fight lightly, but when it comes to major fights like this, especially the biggest fight of your career, you cannot tend to lose focus. And in the later rounds, he kind of lost focus, and Shawn Porter roughed his way in and started finding his mark. And yeah, Ugas slowed down in the later rounds, and he's not going to want to do that. He's going to want to keep it moving and box circles around Pacquiao throughout all 12 rounds of the fight. And he was roughing, Shawn Porter up. And Shawn Porter is a rough fighter. Pacquiao is a less rougher and less physical fighter than Shawn Porter. He's gonna want to use that elbow and shoulder and bump Pacquiao from coming in like how he did against Shawn Porter. And yeah, that he wants to definitely keep Manny Pacquiao at bay with the jab. And if Pacquiao gets on the inside, you want to clinch and use your body parts to make it uncomfortable for Pacquiao in a closer range. And there's this talks about how Ugas has a bicep injury. I don't know if y'all seen the pictures that's been surfacing around. It was Ugas doing, press work for the build up to the fight, and there was a picture where one of his biceps looked a lot more bigger than his other bicep, and it looks very swole. I don't know if that's going to play any effects to that. There was no confirmed injuries reported coming from Ugas' camp, so hopefully that's not the case. But moving on to Manny Pacquiao, this man is 42 years old, still fighting for a major title at 147. this man's still going, man, still fighting at top level competition, even at his age. And he's a busy man. He does political work. As y'all know, he's a singer, he's a basketball player, he's an actor. He does it all, but he's still boxing in his early 40s. He has 62 wins, 39 of those wins coming via knockout, and 7 defeats and 2 draws. And mind you, Manny Pacquiao, in his last fight, he turned the clock around against Keith Thurman. Some people are predicting Ugas to get stopped, but I think that's because they're ignorant to Ugas and they don't know too much about him. He's not a major draw or a recognizable name like that in the sport. But Ugas has never been stopped, and Manny Pacquiao hasn't stopped anyone since 3 years ago, and that was against Lucas Matisse. And prior to that fight, he didn't stop anyone since 2009 against Miguel Cotto, and he didn't knock Miguel Cotto out. It was because the accumulation of punishment that Cotto was suffering in that fight, and yeah. So I don't think this fight's gonna end via knockout, and I named the keys to victories for Ugas. Now let's talk about the keys to victories for Manny Pacquiao. He's gonna want to use volume in this fight, and he's going to want to show his superior hand speed and land combinations when he gets in a punching range against Ugas. And he's going to want to utilize that in and out movement and use pivots to create angles to attack Ugas from. And he's going to want to use that same game plan that he used against bigger men like Oscar De La Hoya and Antonio Margarito, and have that kind of performance showcase in this fight against Ugas. And yeah, as far as my final prediction goes for this fight, I'm going with Manny Pacquiao to win on points via unanimous decision. I think the work rate is going to be the key factor in this fight, and the hand speed is going to be definitely shown in this fight. The difference in hand speed, part of me, is definitely going to be shown in this fight. Manny Pacquiao is a much faster fighter when it comes to hand speed, and I think Pacquiao is going to utilize different angles and his experience in fighting bigger opponents like Ugas, and he's going to cut off the ring and stop the flow and movement of Ugas and utilize his pivots and different angles to attack Ugas from. And I think that's going to happen in the mid to later rounds when Pacquiao is going to start picking up on his offense and start finding success in his attack against Ugas. I think Ugas is only going to be able to keep Pacquiao off of him with the jab and the 1-2 for a little while, fighting off the back foot. But I think in the later rounds, by like the 4th and 5th round, I think the momentum of the fight is going to swing towards Pacquiao's way. That's my final predictions. Yeah, and I don't think Ugas being a last minute replacement, which he really isn't, is going to play such a big effect to the fight, because Ugas, mind you, was supposed to fight in the co-main event, just not for Pacquiao. He happened to be a last minute replacement and the best minute replacement because he was already training for another opponent to defend that title before Spence had to pull out. Anyways, y'all let me know what y'all predictions is in the comment section below. I would love to hear y'all in-depth analysis. If y'all got a video for me to check out, giving y'all predictions to the fight, I would love to, watch that as well. And subscribe, rate, share. Looking forward to the fight. And yeah, y'all take it easy, man. Peace.